Welcome to another episode of Federal Speaks. Yo, I know I say this every episode, but this episode is probably my favorite. It's about to go down. This is a very special episode where we're talking about a topic that, it relates to just about all of us, if not all of us directly, but it's a topic that we often find difficult to talk about in our communities, within our family, and that is the topic of sex. This particular episode is going to be on family, sex, and abstinence. And as you can see, we have a full panel here of youth. We got people from all over America. So I'm very excited to kind of give everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Federal. I am the executive director of the Paint the World Project. Also the host of Federal Speaks, which is a variety talk show on the Paint the World, which is a part of the Paint the World program. I have my executive board, or some of my executive board members here that I'm very excited to introduce to you. I want to pass the mic over to Angela Ross, who is one of my facilitators, who's also going to be facilitating this conversation, and she's going to introduce herself. You're on mute. Also, be mindful to unmute yourself.
Nice if I take myself off mute. But good afternoon, everybody, and welcome.
Welcome. What you want to say about yourself?
I'm part of the board with Paint the World, and I just love this platform.
Awesome.
For joining us.
Welcome, Angela. Next, I'm going to toss the mic over to another executive board member, and that is none other than Delisha Reese. She is also one of our reoccurring facilitators on the Federal Speak show. If you guys never seen the show before, her name is Delisha. Go check her out. She's pretty dope. Delisha, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Delisha Gibson, and again, I'm part of the PWP program, and I did the women panels on suicide and mental health, and I'm just happy to be here again today because this is a subject that I feel like I'm an old fuddy-duddy in, so I hope to get a lot of information and better understanding, and that's why we're having this talk, really to open up. I want to open up my mind and open up my heart to share with especially the youth and people who are younger than me, to give me a perspective of really what's going on and what's going on out there and their ideas of what's going on with sex and abstinence and what it's about, really. So I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome. Welcome, Delisha. Next, I'm going to toss the mic over to that of Darren Calhoun. He's been a participant on the Federal Speak show several times. So welcome, Darren.
Hey, everybody. My name is Darren Calhoun, pronouns he, him, joining from Chicago. I am a worship leader. I am a justice advocate in church, and where I love conversations like these. I think there's a lot of perspectives to bring. I think there's a lot of folks' experiences that definitely need to be included. And I believe when we share stories and share our own experiences, we really do help paint the world. So glad to be here.
I like that Paint the World reference. That's pretty dope. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Great to have you. Next up, we have Audrey White, who's on mute. So if you can unmute yourself, Audrey, if you can introduce yourself, that'd be great.
All righty. Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey White. I'm a guest of Angela Ross, which is a friend of mine. So I guess I'm here to, share and see what you guys are going to be talking about. Maybe I'll be back again. Let's see. So that's it.
Welcome. Well,
Thank you.
We are very excited to have you, Audrey. I'm sure you got some nuggets to drop on this hot topic on sex, so we are looking forward to hearing what you got to say. Next, I'm gonna toss the mic over to Kenya Page. Kenya Page with that beautiful smile. Look at that smile. That smile makes me smile. All right, Kenya, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi. My name is Kenya. I'm from Chicago and I'm 16.
Welcome. What school you go to, Kenya?
UIC College Prep.
Oh, dope. Welcome, Kenya. Next up, we got J. Cole. J. Cole with the hair. I am feeling it. I'm loving it.
Thank
if
you.
You can introduce yourself.
My name's J. Cole. My grandma Angela Ross. I'm 16. I'm from Chicago, but I live in Atlanta. Yeah.
Welcome, J. Cole. Next up, we got none other than the big bro, Deshon Dandridge Sr. What up, Deshon? You're on mute, big bro.
How we doing, everybody? What's going on, Fidel? My name is Deshon Dandridge. I'm an executive chef from upstate New York, but I'm from Chicago originally. You know, we're here to chop it up and just get down to business and educate our people so we can get on the right track. And those that don't know, we educate them, and those that do know, clear some of the clarity up for them. Let's get it.
All right. Thank you for that. Next up, we have Mia. Mia, I'm so happy to see you, mama. It's very good to see your smile. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back. Again, my name is Mia Campbell. I am a preschool teacher and aspiring writer / creator and influencer of everything. If you can think of anything creative, I about got my hands in it right now. But I'm glad to be back, and I look forward to this discussion because it's a very important one and a conversation that I actually just had. So I'm looking forward to everybody's opinions.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have Jaila. Hey, Jaila, how are you? You're on mute if you're speaking. Jaila, can you unmute yourself? She probably trying. Okay, we're gonna come back to Jaila. All right. Well, again, I want to welcome everyone to the show. I am really excited. I think, we got Angela, you got something to say?
Yes, we have somebody else on the line, Janise Diggins.
I see her.
She's at the bottom.
Okay, well, Janise Diggins, go for it. Can you unmute yourself, Mom? Oh, I see her. There she go. Okay, there you go. Okay. Hey, Janise.
Hey.
I didn't mean to skip over you, Mama. I see your hair. There go that smile. How you feeling?
Good.
How old are you?
15.
15. Where you from?
Chicago, Illinois.
All right. Represent Shot City in the building. All right. Well, I think, am I skipping anyone? I'm making sure I got everybody full on my screen. Cool. Well, welcome, Janise. Jaila, you back? I think she back. You there, Jaila? Jaila, call it Jaila. I think she might be having some trouble with her mic. All right. So we're gonna give Jaila an opportunity to get the mic issues together, but we're gonna move forward in the conversation.
I'm back.
Oh, she back. Oh, there she go. Rocket. What's up, Jaila? Come through.
I'm Jaila. I'm 18. I'm a freshman in college, and I'm the guest of Angela Ross. I'm her granddaughter.
Dope. Welcome, Jaila. Welcome all the Angie babies. Angie babies in the building. Oh, Angie babies. I'm an Angie baby too. Y'all just don't know it. I'm a new Angie baby. She just had me. Look at all this. I look like somebody in the family. I know I do. But again, I want to welcome everyone. This particular conversation is a hot topic. It is a topic that I do feel like is very important for us to really, really begin to break down the walls and the barriers, and kind of make this more of a normalized conversation that we have, a continued conversation that we continue to have, as we know that our sexuality continues to develop, our bodies continue to develop and mature even into as we get older. And so we're always at a point where, you know, we're never really addressing an issue with our sexuality, even if we're choosing to be abstinent or asexual and so forth. So we know that this is a hot topic also as it relates to the youth. I'm just gonna put it out there. I've been seeing OnlyFans blow up, and I've been seeing some everything that has really made me realize that the youth has really taken sexuality to a new territory in terms of their bravery and the expression of their sexuality, in terms of their awareness of where they are sexually, and are even communicating that in some ways that can be jarring for those of us who may be a little old-fashioned, who may not be familiar with their generation and the ideals of their generation. So I just want to really dig in. I know we got some people on the call who's definitely been asking me some questions that had me stumped as well, where it's like, I don't know, but I'm definitely going to bring it up. So let's get it started. So with that said, we know that sexuality within, as it relates to 2021, had definitely, like I said, entered some new spaces, and teens, and talking to teens, having conversations with teens and parents about sexuality is more imperative than others, and than ever. Parents should be aware that in having this particular conversation, that is a conversation that should be an ongoing conversation. I know we have coined the phrase having the talk, and talking about the birds and the bees and so forth. But right now we're understanding that it's not just a talk that you just have and you get out of the way. It's a talk that should be continuous. It should be a conversation that is normalized between both the parents and the youth. But if the youth don't feel like they have the courage to talk to their parents, they should also have someone that they are willing to feel safe to talk to about these particular topics. So Angie, if you can go over the goals of the discussion, that would be appreciated. You're on mute, Mama.
Okay, there we go. So the goals: to discuss the effects and benefits of abstinence and the social differences and perspectives on abstinence for males versus females. To discuss the influence and challenges to maintaining a positive and healthy sexual lifestyle within our community and our society. To discuss the emotional effects of sexual intercourse, abstinence, and intercourse, and the benefits and challenges of sexual education. And lastly, to discuss the barriers and challenges to discussing sex within the Black family and society. So with that being said, here are some questions. Let's get started. Y'all ready? So here we go. Who can tell me what is intercourse and what is abstinence? So let somebody chime in, otherwise I'm gonna call me somebody. How about Kenya? Let's go with you. Let's go with the youth. Do you know what intercourse is? Do you know what abstinence is?
I know what abstinence is, but I don't know what intercourse is.
Okay, so what is abstinence?
Saying no to sex.
What? All right, amen. That's it. Good answer. All right. Let's go to another youth. Jaila, do you know what out of course is and abstinence is? Can you hear me? Take yourself off mute. There you go. Can't see you. There you go.
I just know what the abstinence is. What is the outer course?
So what's the abstinence, baby?
Like when you're not having sex.
Okay. All right. Very good. Good answer. So we pretty much got that down with the youth. So how about some adults? Can you tell me what the outer course is? How about Darren?
Sure. I actually had to hop on the Googles and look this up. So Planned Parenthood defines outer course as kissing, massage, masturbation, dry humping with clothes on. And it also mentions some other kinds of things, but primarily things that don't directly involve the genitals making contact with each other.
Very good. Very good.
Because we're going to get right on into the conversation.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And as for Darren and I came up with the questions, I just thought the word out of course was a word from outer space because I'm 57 and I've never heard of that term being used. I said, oh, okay, I just learned something. So youth, that's what out of course is. Anything that's not sex, that you're like kissing, hugging, massages, masturbating, phone sex, they're calling all of that out of course, okay? So how about, so how do you determine when to be abstinent? I know some of us are up in age now, so so you can answer it on that level. When did you decide to be abstinent or not be abstinent or engage? And with the youth, if you're abstinent or you're not abstinent, also when did you decide to be abstinent? So let's go with Deshon.
Well, for myself, growing up, I grew up in a Christian home, so abstinence was a requirement. My mama wasn't having it. But I made a conscious effort to, live my life that way because it was just, I knew it was something I wasn't ready for. I wasn't ready for the emotional attachment. I wasn't ready for the possible backlash. So, I kind of kept myself in line. But I think today there's just so many other things that they have that are generated in front of them. They have more visual context, more freedom, more liberty, than we had back then. So I think they may have a little bit more of a harder time being able to, have the willpower because there's so much pressure in front of them as more than it was when we were younger.
What about so much, Deshon? I think that is so powerful, especially coming from a Black African-American male, that you were like that growing up. So I think that's phenomenal. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Miss Audrey White, what do you have to say about that? What are the benefits of being abstinent when you were abstinent?
Oh my goodness, Angela. Well, the benefits of being abstinent, because I was before at a younger age, but by me being single, I choose to because I don't choose to sleep around with this man, that man. So it's a good benefit because I think for me, I'm gonna speak for myself. For me, it just give me some, how do I want to say this? It makes me feel good about me because I don't give me to everybody just freely like that. So I like being abstinent, however, I might be saying it wrong, but it's a good feeling for me. It helped me feel good about myself.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're feeling good about yourself. All right, let's have some of youth. let's go with Janise. So since you know what abstinence means, are you practicing abstinence in order to know the benefit of it? So in order to know the benefit of it, you have to be practicing abstinence.
Yes.
Okay, so how do you feel about being abstinent? I can't see your pretty face, Janise.
I feel good.
Okay, okay. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Can
What
I chime
about,
in really quickly?
go right ahead.
Um, I've been abstinent as well as a black male or whatnot. I know they like to create this caricature of us being horned up and so forth, but I've been abstinent and I found that some of the benefits were very internal. You know, it took me to a place where I learned to manage my own sexual appetites, where I learned to manage my own sexual urges, where it allowed me to get to know me and even what it was that I'm attracted to, what it is that may be more of a fetish, what, you know, it really allowed me to really take some time to be introspective as opposed to just always, you know, when I'm horny, going and find something to do it with, you know. And so I think abstinence also has benefits that can be spiritual as well as physical as well, because it gives you the opportunity to really learn how to control your physical body and not respond to the impulses of being sexual, as opposed to being more thoughtful and mindful of when you choose to engage in sex.
Wow, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. That I believe also with that, Fidero, that it's it's a mind thing. You have to mentally get in a mental space to even set yourself up to be that way. So I think that's awesome. So with that being said, what are some challenges with being abstinent? How about you, Mia?
Um, the some challenges from with being abstinent, really, I don't, in my opinion, there really aren't any, except for social acceptance. Um, if you find that to be a big deal, you know, like especially as a teenager or a young adult, like your peers may be doing something that you're not doing. Like if your peers are already engaging in sex and you're not, then that's the only thing that I could say um would be the downside to it. But that's not actually a downside because you know the opinions of your friends don't matter when it comes down to what you do with your body and how the act of sex can change you mentally, emotionally, and physically. So like I would say that the only hindrance is like just the social acceptance and being made fun of. Like I know that amongst my peers I was one of the last to lose their virginity, and had I known what I know now, I would have waited until I was waiting till till I was 30. I would wait till right now, you know, wait till I was engaged and married before I even engaged in that act. But I think that would be the only downside to it is, you know, just the social acceptance part.
Yes, that
Can we
social
toss
aspect is real deep. It runs deep. It has a lot of factors, can play a lot of factors in your life, especially as a teenager, as you pointed out. So speaking as a teenager, J. Cole, do you have any challenges in being abstinent?
No, I don't have any challenges. Not having sex, I don't have no challenges.
Okay. Well, that's to your granddaughter. Uh, so let me say this. I was once a teenager and I did have some challenges. I had a boyfriend and he wanted to have sex. I was like 15, and I had a rough time with it because he kept badgering me, badgering me. And then so I said, okay. But as soon as I said, okay, I said, no, no, no. And then I got up and ran away. So we never did. But, and guess what? He hated me and was no longer my boyfriend again. So that's something that happens as you are a teenager. But I got over it, and he got over it and went with somebody else. But I did face that. I would never, ever forget that. So.
Can I toss the question over to Darren? I know Darren, he's a close friend of mine, and I know there's been a period of time where he was abstinent, like for a significant amount of time. And I personally watched him go through that period of life. And I personally admired him because I, at the time, was sexually active, and I did not understand just what type of self-restraint it took for just really being able to abstain. So, Darren, if you don't mind, can I ask you, what challenges did you face when it came to abstaining from sex?
Yeah, so there's a few layers to that. One part is there's a way that other people expect you to be abstinent and to say no to sex and different things that are about their expectations for you that are totally separate from your own choices, what you need to do for you, what's going on in your life. So like I really like to start telling this part of my story with the fact that there were both church expectations, peer expectations, and so forth, but there was also the ways that I just wanted to be healthy for myself. And it actually took me a very long time to figure out I couldn't make my sexual health choices based on what other people wanted from me. I really needed to have a deep understanding of this is what I want. This is what I'm doing to be healthy. This is what I'm doing to be well. But in either choices to have sex or not to have sex, it still really has to come from you. And so like when it comes to the challenges, some of the things that I found interesting were some of the, like we talk about social pressure for sex. There are less people having sex now than in years past, statistically speaking. And so while it always exists, it always is there. The more people are feeling free to talk about it, to ask questions about it, to get educated about what sex is, the more people feel comfortable making the decisions that work for them. The interesting thing, and maybe we'll get into this in this conversation, what we define as sex is different all across the board. So what some people say, oh, that's not sex, that's just oral, or that's not sex, that's just, touching, and not realizing that like there's all kinds of risk and connection that happens in all of these kind of things. So I think there's a lot of inward work we have to do to figure out what is abstinence for us, and is that important to us, or am I doing it because I'm supposed to do it? There's a lot to dig into.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Great, Darren, great. So let's go to the next question. It says, what are pressures placed on males and females when choosing to be abstinent? Let's go with you, Delisha.
Well, for me, I think that the pressure is on both. In any point in your life, especially when you're a teenager and when you're first coming into it, my personal experience is it is a pressure because, of course, it's always a peer pressure. To me, it always has been. It's always the talk of who is a virgin, who's not a virgin, and then, but when I was growing up, I didn't have a strong mindset. So I kind of leaned into listening to who was doing something and who wasn't doing something. Then when I did decide to do something, it turned that the young lady, all the people, like Darren said, who said they were having sex were not having sex. You talking about somebody ticked off? To me, I call it a storyline. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like a storyline to say, oh, I'm the biggest and baddest person here. You know what I'm saying? And then they're really not cracked up to what they are. And as Darren was saying, that's our society in general and what I experience. And I think that people, young people, and just people in general still do experience. It's all about a social thing. It's all about understanding what you stand on, what you believe on. So it's definitely, I think, our social environment, how we adapt to that, how we look at it, how we even understand it is the biggest thing that was my choice in dealing with and understanding and having sex.
Wow, good stuff. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to call on Jaila. Jaila, I know that you do have a boyfriend, and I know that he's abstinent, and you are too. I believe he's 19 and you're 18. So can you tell me a little bit? Is he having any challenges with being abstinent? Are you having any challenges about being abstinent? I know I'm grandma, but you can still talk. You know, we talk about any and everything. So just talk how you feel.
No, it's not a problem.
So how does he feel about it?
I mean, he doesn't feel away. He wants to wait, so we're gonna wait.
So that's good. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
That's dope. I wasn't expecting that answer, that he wants to wait and that she's consciously respecting that. That's a pretty dope response. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks again for sharing, Jaila. Big girl stuff. So let's move on to another question. So what pressures come within the family? So I guess this is for the adults when you were younger, even maybe while you're adults now, you may, especially if you're still practicing abstinence, you may have some pressures within your family asking you too old to be abstinent, you know, things like that. So do you face any pressures within the family and youth? Are you experiencing any pressures within your family as you being abstinence? Let's go with the youth first. Kenya, are you facing any challenges within your family?
No, I'm not facing no challenges in my family with being abstinent. They
Okay.
support.
So tell me, how do you being abstinent?
How do I feel? Um, I feel good about it. I'm safe and I'm happy.
Amen. That's good. That's great. Good stuff, Kenya. Um, so Audrey, I know you said you're respecting you loving you right now. So do you have any challenges within your family with you practicing abstinence?
Well, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but maybe sometime from, I'm not gonna say friends because they're not friends, associates may say, girl, you need to get you some, but that's not important to me. Not that, you know, that's not the first thing on my to-do list to go have sex. So I'm cool right where I'm at. When that time comes, it's gonna happen. So now I don't have no challenge because I don't let what people say get the best of me. Mm-mm. I'm cool, Angela. That's it.
That's good. That's good.
Can I chime in for a moment?
Yes.
So like some pressures that I know that I experienced growing up as a male were pressures to have sex. There were pressures that I realized weren't definitively placed on my sisters, who was probably more so encouraged to abstain. I know, even though I didn't have a father in the household, just with peer pressures, everybody talking about what they doing, what they getting, who they smashing. Every other song on the radio is propagating, smashing some girl down. It did take a level of self-awareness and self-control to say, hey, I'm not going to participate. Honestly, I lost my virginity at 17. And I know, I had peers who were 12, 13, and then after I lost my virginity, I felt so bad that I ain't do it again. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna go to hell, I'm gonna burn, because there was, and we're gonna get into this very unhealthy sexual identity that was placed upon me as a male, that I realized I had to kind of break away from and kind of determine, okay, who are you? What do you like? What, other than what mama taught you, other than what you're seeing on TV, other than what you're hearing on the radio, where do you stand within your sexuality and your sexual identity? So I know, I'm not, again, my sister's not here, so she's not here to tell her side, but I know that I remember distinctively watching them kind of baby her and kind of, keep her, hold yourself pure, your chastity. And, she was given those type of conversations, and I wasn't given any. Nobody talked to me at all about what I was doing, and that's something very distinctly that I remember, as a male, as it relates to different pressures for abstinence and sex.
Wow. So you just made me think all the way back, Fidel, when I was around that age. And I can remember vividly my parents, my mom, saying, you're going to get pregnant. No sex. You're going to get pregnant. Don't talk to that boy. You're going to get pregnant. No, you can't have a boyfriend. You're going to get pregnant. Catch some kind of disease. I never was taught the softer side of no sex. I was always talked about the bad side of having no sex. So I internalized that and wanted to challenge it. So I had sex. I had it at 16. I wish I didn't. I couldn't take it back, but I did. But that's where that pushed me off into. So I think as the years change, parents have to evolve with the sign of the times with their children, and teach a more softer side of not having sex, and just be open and upfront with it, and have that dialogue. And with that, a lot of it will reduce a lot of the pregnancies and the STDs and all of that kind of stuff that's in our society. So
and I just want to chime in for a minute on that. I do agree with Fidel. It's the same for me. Even though I'm the oldest, my brother is the middle child. It was okay, and for him to, the idea of, like Angela saying, have sex. But for the girls in the family, it was like birth control, STDs. That was, the hard part of it was taught to us and preached to us in a sense. And then girls, we went to church. So, girls was like, oh, you're going to go to hell, all the fornication, all this kind of stuff. So I think it is a more open conversation. And I think it's unfair. And I'm just say this in my opinion, I think it's unfair that you think that a young boy is mentally stable and ready for the idea of sex versus a young girl. You give her all of these, you going to hell and all this other kind of stuff, but it's the same for a young boy. He can get an STD, you know what I'm saying? And he can get someone pregnant. So, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, yeah, the girl will get pregnant, but the boy can get someone pregnant, And so that's the thing that I think that in our age group that we rationalized, and we kind of like made the idea of that to be okay. And I think it affected us in a bad way. And it wasn't good, in my opinion, it wasn't good for us to be put in that situation. And like Angela said, have that hardcore idea of sex. Where was them? And I don't think we can blame our parents, because I don't think they really knew and understood how to have those conversations and everything. So that plays a part as well. So I will say that in the bottom line of that. But I think I'm glad to see teenagers now have the ability to talk to us, and we know different and we know better, and to give them better tools to be confident in themselves and to love themselves in general, without always thinking about sex before they think of themselves and who they are.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. I think one last thing about that, real quickly. Delisha, you touched on something. You said, so when I was with my children, I gave them a voice, something I didn't have when I was a child. So I gave them a voice to talk respectfully and tell me how you feel. And that in turn reciprocated into a conversation about and everything. And therefore I was open to hear what they had to say. That in turn reached my daughter, and I raised my granddaughters to the same extent. They come to us, they talk about any and everything. We go to them and talk about. So we have an open communication. So it does rely on us today to extend that and to not shun it like it was, or make it like a taboo thing like it was back in the day. So good stuff. Great conversation. So now you want to say something, Fidel?
Yeah, I was going to transition into the sexual identity portion, because I think that that's a great this is a great segue based off of what Delisha was saying in regards to some of the negative things that we're taught versus as a either as a woman and even as a man, where if you taught by owning your sexuality and demonstrating more of a sex positive nature, you can be considered a whore as a woman, while as a man you are applauded. Hey, go for it. Hey, and so I think all of that helps to define us both personally, but even in our sexual identity and how we relate to others sexually. So one of the things that I want to ask, and I'm gonna toss this over to maybe Deshon and then maybe over to Darren, especially as the men on the panel, how important is it to foster a positive and a healthy sexual identity as a man? How does that factor into your how you identify as a man sexually?
Well, I'll start off first by saying that we as men, especially me being a older generation, I'm a 75 baby, so I was still around the era of the super strong male and that played the definitive role of macho and wanting the woman to be the submissive woman. That was the era where we were raised, that kind of came from the dad worked and mom stayed at home. And so through generations we've had that carry of ignorance, as I would call it, because we didn't take the time to nurture the other side of our relationship, which is being aware of the opposite sex and what their needs are. I think we were programmed as men to, worry about our own needs and think of the woman as less than, and women growing up, they were instilled in them to be, submissive, or take care of your man and to be less independent. But as they got older, things have transitioned, to the point where women have become more conscious and more independent. But us as men have been somewhat still lagging behind, trying to hold on to our power position. And, we have to step away from that and give way to sensitivity, so that we can, teach men to be softer, teach women to be stronger, so that we can find more common ground to exist in healthy relationships, and as well as our own. If we're not healthy with our own identity and our own relationships, we can't pass that information on, and we can't, give that same respect and compassion to each other.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Darren, how important is it to foster a positive and a sexual healthy identity? And if you don't mind, if you can even define what that looks like, what does a positive and a healthy sexual identity look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I want to take it back a little bit to what my experience was growing up. Because a lot of times when I hear people talking about sex, sex was like this big, bad, scary thing that you're supposed to avoid, 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 or be ashamed or look away. And it kind of created all these negative ideas about what sex was, what sexuality was, what bodies do. And while you get some of that for men and some of the demands for men, it's 1,000 times worse for women. Just so many people telling you what you should wear, shouldn't wear, how where you should go and shouldn't go to avoid being sexually assaulted, what you should say and shouldn't say, like so many things that are all based in these negative ideas and avoiding things. But if we flip that script, if we flip that narrative and think about what a positive sexual identity is, that's being confident in yourself. That's loving the body that you were designed with or that God gave you, whatever it's shaped like. If it's thin and petite, if it's big and round, whatever it is, like it's your body and it's beautiful. This idea of no matter what, because there's sometimes I just want to name, like sometimes in this conversation it can feel like there's only one right answer. And I would offer that there are lots of right answers, and that no matter what choice you make, you're not wrong for making your choice. That we as people who care about you should be here for you, not only here for your answer. So that means, like, if you've been sexually assaulted, you aren't less than. If you choose to be sexually active, we're not going to abandon you. If you are wrong, if you feel like you're wrong for being undecided, like it's totally normal to be kind of figuring stuff out and maybe not saying everything that you're thinking. Um, and so yeah, one last bit with this is, for me, I grew up trying to fit myself into, okay, well, boys are supposed to like girls, and then it's supposed to go like this, and you're supposed to date that way, and blah, 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 blah. But I'm queer. And being somebody who wasn't written into those narratives about what boys do and girls do, man, I was figuring out most of this stuff on my own. I was finding books and looking on the internet and all this other stuff. And for me to figure out, how do I make healthy choices? How do I make good choices for me? I didn't have the support that I deserved, that I should have had. And so I also want to make it known that, like queer people who are undecided, people who are questioning themselves, their orientation or their gender identity, all of us deserve healthy conversations, loving conversations about sex and sexuality. And yeah, adults fail. Some of your family fails. We can just say that and we can still love them. And we can still say, I need some support. I need some help. We can find the resources that we need because we're worthy of it. Like just because somebody doesn't want to talk about it with you doesn't mean that you don't deserve the questions you have being answered, or at least help to find the answers to those questions. So yeah, we can be positive.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You said something that was very critical that I want to toss at the youth. And that was just the external influences that can kind of impact your sexuality. I know right now with social media being as big as it is, and with the music industry having this strong sexual current that is permeating even through the music, I want to ask the youth, like, how are you guys maintaining a positive sexual identity as it relates to your body? I know a lot of girls are out, getting body alterations. Even some of the guys are doing it now. So how do you maintain a positive perspective about yourself when it comes to your sexuality and your sexual identity as a woman, as a young girl, as a teenager? I'll toss it over to Janise first, because I kind of want to hear from all of them. Janise, then J. Cole, then Kenya, then Jaila. Janise, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Janise, you there?
I'm here.
There you go. Okay, there you go. So again, I'll repeat the question. How do you, with social media and with music and with all the Cardi B's and all of these other beautiful women that are paraded on social media as well as on YouTube and so forth, how do you maintain a positive sexual identity and understanding of yourself as a young girl? Or are you affected? Like, and if you are affected, you can say, yeah, it bothers me when I see somebody who, you know, may look better than me or is more sexually appealing than I am.
I'm not affected. I don't pay it no mind.
You don't pay it no mind. Now that's good. That's good. How about you, J. Cole?
I don't really care about it. I don't care about it at all.
You don't care about it? Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Kenya?
Could you repeat the question?
So how are you affected, or how do you maintain a positive identity sexually, as it relates to yourself as a woman in the face of everything that's going on with social media, with all of the girls and the videos and the music and everything that may be pushing certain type of girl, a certain type of look, a certain type of persona? How do you remain Kenya? How do you stay poised in your identity?
Sometimes it is hard. You do lose track of yourself, noticing like everybody else. It's a normal thing, human thing to compare. But I have a good support system that remind me that if I'm not me.
I think we may have lost it. Kenya, you there? And you broke up a little bit. I want to hear what you say. Your support system. They remind you of what? Can you hear me?
No, I actually can't. Everybody moving slow. I think my connection off.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll give you an opportunity to get the connection good. Jaila, I know what you've been one of the older of the teens on the call today. How do you, like, if a young girl came to you for some advice on how to avoid falling into the pitfalls of trying to be the next Cardi B or be somebody that they're not, or even if, appeal to an ideal of having to be sexual before their time, how do you maintain a positive sexual identity within yourself?
Okay, so with me, I'm not easily influenced. Like, I'm not going to do this because I see the next person doing it. So I would just tell them, like, you need to stay true to yourself. Like, you don't have to fit in just to make you look good. Like, just stay to yourself. Just be yourself and just be confident in yourself.
That's pretty dope because I'm listening to these young ladies talk, and I know personally for me, first, let me kudos to the parents, kudos to Mama Angie, kudos. Because I know for me personally, growing up, it was all types of pressures. It was all types of things that I was looking and comparing and insecure. What it sounds to me is that these young ladies are very secure within themselves, and I definitely applaud that in regards to the parenting and even in regards to their own self-esteem, because I know there are a lot of youth who are looking for role models and other looking for examples of what to do, who to be, how to be in this world. And the media has provided a whole barrage of choices that may not be indicative of someone you may want to represent in the long term. And they may not be ultimately the best role models that to follow as it relates to, you know, sexual identity and sexual health and personal health and so forth. So great job. Go ahead, Delisha.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask them because they seem very planted in who they are. But I'm wondering, as a teenager, because I didn't have it, how did they get to that point? Did they get to that point by support from their parents, or you know, how did they get to that point? Because to me, it doesn't just seem that simple that they're just like that strong. And I'm not saying, you know, cutting them down, but I'm like, when I was that age, I didn't have that kind of confidence. So I'm like, how did they get to that confidence? Is it just part of them being who they are or how they were raised? I mean, like, how did you get there?
Well, we got a parent here that could speak to it, and then we can have one of the young ladies speak to it. Who's influenced you? But go ahead, Angie.
Jaila, I see you took yourself off mute. You want to say something, baby? You want to answer?
Honestly, it don't like just happen over time. Like, I guess as I got older, like since I'm 18 now, then it just built up over time. That's my answer.
It built up, but how did it begin to build up? Were you taught that to that this is this and that is that?
I mean, yeah, with you and Gurney.
Okay. So that's basically what she was asking, you know, how did you get to the point that you are now? So, but I did want to point out, that's why I raised my hand, that there are some young ladies on here who are not struggling with their identity, but they do have a sexual preference. And we have not, my daughter and I, we have not, or my mother, my mother, even my mother in her senior has, we have, like I had to share with them, we have to love people where they are. We have to embrace them. This is who they are. Because somebody likes another girl, you disown them? No. You have a grandson or a son that likes the same sex. Do you shun them? No, you embrace them. And I tell them that sex is sex, no matter if you're with the same sex or the opposite sex. It's still the same. So we still practice this no matter what. So, and it's constant talking, and it's constant sharing and asking questions, because you know a lot of times they don't say, they may not come to me and say anything, but they know Nana gonna ask, and I do, and I ask them. And Kenya is a good friend of the family, so she part of the clan as well. So we just keep it real, and so that's how we do it.
I think that's important. I think that is exactly how you foster a healthy relationship with your children as it relates to the topic of sex. Is just by having those hard conversations, being open to what they have to say, being open to their experience, their perspective, being open to the difficult questions, being honest about the fact that you may not have all of the answers, being willing to explore and learn more outside of your comfort zone, being willing to challenge yourself to come back, you know, to the topic and not just blow it over and say, you know, because I find that older people tend to just do one of these, you know, where they just don't want to see, don't want to know, you know, and we can't hide from it anymore, you know. Transgender people are here. You cannot hide from. You have to accept the fact that these people are a part of our society. They are instrumental to some of our family structures. You know, you can't go to church without finding, you know, some gay person in the choir directing. You know, they are part of our society. So regardless of the sexuality and sexual identity, it's very important that we learn to understand that sexuality, number one, is a spectrum. It's never black and white. It's never been black and white. And when we take sexuality out of those frames and allow ourselves to be educated, and without allowing what we were taught to be the end all be all, you will find yourself probably discovering something about yourself, you know what I'm saying, that you didn't know. You may not be as hetero as you think, you know what I'm saying? And that's the truth. And so with that said, I want to ask this question: how important is sex education to sexual identity and orientation? And I'll toss that out to anybody who want to join in. Anyone, either with the youth who may have gone through sex ed in high school, or maybe going through sex ed. How impactful are these particular conversations? And even the adults who went through sex ed, how did sex education and school impact your identity, if at all, on your sexuality and your understanding of sex?
Deshon has his hand up.
Go for it, Deshon.
Well, I would say that I think it has a lot to do with it. I think for myself personally, it gave me the opportunity to get the general knowledge from school, and as well as, get all the street banter as well. You get, because then you get to hear all the shop talk of what everybody's mom and dad told them or what they found out, and then as well as then you go back. So after hearing all of their nonsense, then you get to go back and sit with them and look at and get educated, and call everybody out on their BS, and as well as, it gives you the opportunity to learn about yourself, so that when you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're having wet dreams or whatever, it's not a bad thing, or it's not something to be ashamed of. Or if you as a young male happen to be looking at another male on TV and you find yourself being stimulated by it, that it's nothing to feel ashamed of. We put so many labels on society back in the past about being ashamed, that we didn't educate ourselves even back then. So now as we're getting older and we're progressing, we find that the times change, and we have to still keep those communication doors open. But as well, we have to be, me being older, as well as I have to make sure that I'm receptive to everyone's ideas and opinions, even though they're not my own. Like I have heterosexual family members. I have, non-gender specific role family members, and I love them all the same. They don't bother me either way. I carry myself as a heterosexual male, but I hang with LGBTQ, all of them. I don't have a problem existing, because I've learned to love and accept everyone and to feel comfortable within myself, so that I'm not intimidated or feared, or I'm gonna get the cooties, or I don't want their stuff rubbing off on me. We have to get away from those things and not be afraid to just treat everyone the same. Like we fear and ignorance promotes those things, and we have to get away from the fear and ignorance.
Definitely. Anybody else want to speak on their sex education, how it impacted them? Well, personally, I'll speak on mine. So I don't even remember it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they doing something different in high school now, but I don't remember it. Everything I learned about sex, I learned from porn or experience, and that is a hard truth. I think that exposes probably a huge gap in probably other people's lives in that area, where porn becomes one of the primary teachers, where your peers become your primary educators, where trial and error becomes your greatest teacher, because school, for me, they dropped the ball. My parents, somewhere, they dropped the ball. I didn't have an auntie and an uncle that said, "Hey boy, let me tell you what to do and what not to do." You know, some of my friends educated me on what to do, what not to do. And so because of that, my sex education was very, very short, which is why I think even having this conversation is a little challenging for me, even still. But anybody else want to speak on their sexual education? Okay, so go ahead.
I'll expand a little bit more on what I was saying earlier. We had the talk in high school, and they split us up with the boys in one room and the girls in another room, and we had a little workbook and stuff. And one of the things that really stands out to me now, looking back, is that in the curriculum that we had, it was only like, here are the parts, and here's what changes happen in puberty, but it was never like these bigger conversations about like how you feel about yourself, or about like making choices, and how to talk about things like consent with a partner, or how to talk about sexual health, like if something's wrong and you feel uncomfortable talking to maybe your regular doctor or something. Like, there's all kinds of really important things that I think so many of us just had to figure out on our own, or or we didn't figure it out, and all of a sudden we had to deal with it at a doctor's office. But yeah, so I felt like I did a lot of searching on my own. I went and looked up books and just all kinds of stuff that was way above my pay grade. But I found myself like kind of like Fidel, trying to figure this out on my own. But now I feel like there's so much more available. Even like the TV shows and stuff are a lot more accurate than what things used to be. So yeah.
Awesome.
I wish Google was available back then too.
Man, someone made a point on one of the other discussions that said, listen, the internet wasn't available to me like it is now. Y'all they got it. Like, yo, it's really at your fingertips. But I do want to ask this question: where does the primary responsibility lie when it comes to sex education? Is it the teacher, the doctor, is it the parent? I know some of us get our sex education from the pulpit. Where does that responsibility, is it a conglomerate of all of those things? Anybody got an answer? Go ahead, Deshon.
I think it's a combination of things to a certain point. As young children growing up, if that relies on the parents to a certain point to educate the kids about their bodies, good touch, bad touch, compassion, all those things. And then as they get into the older level, it becomes more of the parents and teachers. But then as a child becomes more older and becoming more socially aware, it falls on them to educate themselves, especially, and as well as, teachers and parents, that's a continual process. But as a person becomes into their own, it falls on them, because now they have to do the research, they have to take the initiative, they have to learn, because it's not just about what we say or what we do, what we perceive. It's all of those things and then some. So you have to take all of it. It's still a continuous learning process. It's never ending. Even today, we're still learning about our bodies. We're still learning about, nature and relationships and everything else. So, it's a combined combination. As much information as we can get and learn, just keep doing it and soaking it up.
Dope. I got a question for the youth. I want to get back to this concept of peer pressure, and I want to kind of stress on that just a little bit for any youth that are watching. So since we have what appears to be some very strong-minded young ladies here, how would how in the face of peer pressure do you stand, like, say for instance you got a homegirl who's pressuring you to go have sex, with the boy down the street that like you. How do you stand up to her and that pressure, and how do you stand up to him and that pressure? And then and when I ask that, I mean like more specific, like not just I just tell them no, but like really kind of how do you challenge that back where they fall back and understand? Because some people will push back. You tell them no, they'll push back a little bit harder. So how do you stand your ground in that regard? I'm gonna go start with Kenya.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First, I wouldn't. If I had a friend like that, I would reconsider our friendship, because why are you pressuring me to do something that I don't want to do? Or even if I did want to, why that's your business, you know? But I would say no, and because it's my body. So yeah.
Dope answer. How about you, J. Cole? The homie, like, yo, you might as well tap that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna do nothing I don't want to do. I make sure everybody know that. Like, you're not gonna make me do nothing that I don't want to do. So I'll tell them no, because yeah, I think I want to do it.
Okay. So what happens if you want to do it? Like, do you like, yo, I want to do it. At what point, like, and where do you draw the line? Okay, I want to do it. They trying to get me to do it. Low key. Low key, I'm kind of on that, but Nana may not. How do you, how do you draw that line?
Hey, I don't really know how I draw that line. Like, I don't really know.
You play it case by case. I'm with you. I was the same way. Listen, case by case. Jaila, how about you? Okay, I know you kind of already stated, with your boyfriend, you stand your ground, but I kind of want to. It's more so for any team that may be listening, and they may need to know how to find the words to stand up for themselves in the case that they are being pressured and they're not quite ready yet. How would you phrase that? How would you put those into your own words?
If you're not ready, just simply don't do it. Because if you do it just because you're being pressured, you gonna most likely regret it. So just simply just don't. You gotta have a voice to talk up to that person and literally tell them that you're not interested in doing that.
Dope. I like that. Have a voice. Don't lose your voice. Delisha spoke to this point earlier, just about giving the youth a voice. It's important to never lose your voice. That's one of the important things about Paint the World Project, creating a platform that gives the youth back their voice, where we're not constantly saying, you're young, you too young, you don't know what you're talking about, go sit down, you don't have an opinion, and so forth. So I like what you said about owning and taking possession of your voice. Lastly, Janise, yo, homegirl saying, yo, I got this brother, he like you, he think you real cute, he says you fine, he talking about come over, give him a call, just go down there, girl, go see what he want. I stand right here, your mama ain't gonna say nothing.
I would be like, no. And if I was to go, I would be like, why would you make me go by myself? And I don't really know them. You don't know what they can do to me. Why are you trying to stand and look out and stuff?
No, that's a good answer. Yeah, what's your intention? You don't know. Let me ask this question. What do you ladies know about consent? Who can tell me about what consent is?
It's basically getting somebody permission. Getting
Yeah.
somebody permission to do something.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone? Any adult can tell me what consent is? I want to hear even what the adult. What's consent? And why is it important? Ooh, come on.
There's a whole lot to talk about here
Come on.
because it's not only permission that, like, for example, that you're asking someone permission, but it's also your ability to give permission. And so that's often where we get into some of the messy stuff, because if your teacher says, hey, let's mess around, can you give consent if you like your teacher, if you think your teacher's hot? Or if you were out and let's just say you got drunk, can you give consent to have sex with somebody if you decide that that's what you want to do that night? And I'm gonna leave those right there.
Yeah, those are good questions. And also understanding what it means to get consent. And make sure that the consent is understood, and not assumed. Just as much as it is important to give consent, isn't because, whether or not you straight, gay, bi, or whatever, everyone has the right to decline. Everyone has the right to own their body, their space. Everyone has the right to tell you no, and to be unattracted to you or just not be in the mood. All of that speaks to a level of respect that is important to maintain as it relates to understanding personal boundaries, with understanding and setting certain boundaries for yourself, as well as understanding, hey, that's somebody's body. I need permission before I touch and grope and so forth. And so consent is very, very important to understand, both on the receiving end as well as on the giving end. Angela, you hear something you want to add?
Yes, I had a conversation with the oldest granddaughter since she's away at college and she's went to a couple of college parties and everything. And I had to, we just had through conversation to tell her, as it relates to consent, be mindful of the things that you wear. Because sometimes what you wear can be alluding that you're trying to give somebody consent, even though you're not. You still don't want to put that projection out there. So I just, have to remind her to be mindful of what you wear.
Yeah, I think that's, I think that's definitely
on the right, but
it's fair, but regardless of what she wears, she should always be respected. She should always feel safe, because that's something, because going back to what and I'm not undermining nothing that you're teaching as a grandmother, but one of the things that I know that's something nobody ever told me, to be mindful of what you wear, Fidel, because this, that, and the other. So it is very lopsided, and it can create an idea that, by choosing to wear X, Y, and Z, you're asking for X, Y, and Z to happen as a response. And I know that. I'm not saying that that's what you're saying. What I'm saying is that it can create a sense that you are responsible for someone else's negative behavior towards you, and it may not be your responsibility to control what they do. But go ahead, Deshon.
I was just wanting to kind of add into that as well. I think it's not just the what you're wearing, but it's you as a person, how you conduct yourself when you're wearing what you're wearing. Okay, because you can't be, dressed in a short mini skirt going to a party, you know, where you know it's going to be savages and vultures around there, and you want to, you know, pop Molly and you know, and get all drunk and twisted at the bar, and not expect that these vultures aren't going to try to, you know, take advantage of you if you, especially if you're being a little friendly or flirty, you know. And so it that comes into that self-awareness as well. It's not just the dress, it's the apparel and how you carry yourself as well. As a man, you can't be out there, you know, out here with your, you know, your body all hanging out, conducting yourself like you want to, you know, like you're looking for something, or at least appearing that way, and you know, expect that someone's not gonna, you know, try to come at you or whatever. But you have, and again, it's the conduct as well. It's not just the clothes that make the person. It's the how you carry yourself as well. It's the energy that you give off.
Hey, Deshon, I'm curious. For Daryl mentioned a little bit about this. Did you grow up with people giving you instructions as a man on how to dress so that you don't get sexually assaulted?
See, as myself, no, we didn't. I didn't have that instruction. My mom was just the type of person. She was more of a iron-fisted single mom until she got married. She kept me dressed. You know, she taught me, you know, just to be, you know, protective of myself, what, you know, what a good touch and bad touch was. But as far as being able to really, you know, as far as really telling me, you know, to dress this way so that you're not, you know, approached a certain way, no, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that that experience. I was just, you know, my mom was just overprotective anyway.
Yeah, and I'm resonating because I didn't have that either. People didn't say, "Oh, well, you know, don't wear these kind of clothes, don't wear those kind of clothes because you get assaulted." But I heard girls get those messages all the time, and what's really striking to me is that I think because we care so much, we keep telling girls like, "Don't wear this," or "Make sure you wear that." But anybody can be assaulted.
You're right, and that's what I said. As you know, even as men, we go out and, you know, we get wasted too and wind up, you know, laid off in the bushes somewhere and easily taken advantage of. You know, it happens on both poles. That's why I said we have to be aware of the energy we bring, as well as, you know, what we're giving off. You know, if we're, you know, we want to look good, yeah, but we can't be, you know, having all our goodies out and getting so trashed that we're allowing ourselves to be, you know, whole. And as well as, I think it's just a point. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's, you know, the company that we keep, you know, as well. If we're out with, you know, friends or people that have our best interests in mind, they're gonna keep an eye on us as well and make sure that we're not putting ourselves in those situations where we're, you know, doing something unhealthy, you know, or allowing ourselves to be, you know, so alleviated where we're taken advantage of.
Yeah, what I really like about what you said was this idea of us like looking out for each other. And as I think about what I didn't get growing up and what kind of things I didn't hear, I'm hearing a lot more of people saying, "Hey, you know, if you see your friend catcalling some girl, like you should speak up to your friend. Or if you go out to a party, make sure it's with people that you trust, not because they said you should trust them, but because you've seen them care for other people." Because I think too often our society has taught us to blame ourselves for what happens to us. But instead of us continuing that pattern, like I would really love it to see us make sure we care and we show up for each other and make sure that nobody gets catcalled, make sure that nobody, even if they are drunk, make sure that nobody's left alone to be taken advantage of. Like there's so much more that can happen when we move away from like, you know, asking what the individual is doing to instead asking ourselves, what are we doing to make sure people are safe?
Yeah, I agree. I think also is that I don't know you. You know, I think a lot of times that comes into play because we might see somebody drunk, you know, or alleviated, but because we don't know them, we're not going to take the time to approach them and say, "Hey, are you okay?" Or, do you need anything? We kind of just look at them and, you know, kind of stroll off and wait to see if somebody else is going to, you know, walk up to them. And I think we don't have that. We're not as empathetic as a society as we should be. We don't have that full team spirit where we look out for each other. And it's not just a cultural thing. I think it's across the board in humanity in itself.
And I just wanted to comment on the one thing about the question of being consensual. I did find myself in my lifetime being in a relationship, and I was saying yes, but in the middle I'm like, well, no. And unfortunately, it turned out to be date rape because I wasn't allowed to change my mind in the middle of it. And to me, that's a big part of consensual, is you can start out saying yes. And when you change your mind, that person doesn't catch up with what you're saying. It's like, well, we're already here. We're already kind of like in the act. And now you want to say no when you were saying yes. And I mean, literally, like, we're in it. And it's just like, but I'm changing my mind because this is not where I want to be. And I'm finding out this is not something that I want at this point. And it's not consensual when that person doesn't take your yes to the no as being no. And so that's, for me, that's what consensual means. Even if you're in the middle of the act of getting into it and like feeling, you know, kissing or whatever the case may be, if your yes turns to a no, to me, that's the point that person or that partner should be to respect you and say, and not go further past your no. So that's what my idea and experience with being consensual was.
I so appreciate that, because we again, we have this society that tells us, oh, well, they were a tease. You know, we just, right now we're watching R. Kelly and that trial go on, and there's a lot of people arguing different things. But I think, again, like, how do we make a world that's better for everybody in it? We need to, like, make sure that people get enthusiastic yes. Like, we need to make sure that we give people space and time, and know that if there's a big age difference, as when somebody is under 20, 19 even years old, that probably isn't okay. And we should be talking about it. And it's okay to, like, ask some questions about it. So I appreciate you naming that. And thank you for sharing that part of your story.
Thank you for sharing, guys. So I have a question, and this is for anyone who wants to answer. What is the most difficult part of talking about sex for you? What's the most difficult aspect of discussing sex and talking about
it? I would say for me, the most difficult part is admitting that in the early part of my life that I was a misogynist, and that I made a lot of errors, you know, as a young man, only because I didn't have the guidance and tutelage, you know, and that, you know, I had to deal with the shame, and that I didn't understand the emotional baggage, and that I was putting on myself, as well as the women that I was, you know, sleeping with as well. I didn't understand the difficulties that even later on in life as an adult that I have to deal with. You know, I have 5 daughters, and you know, I navigate through their relationships now with my experiences. But you know, there was a part of my life that they had to see Dad when he wasn't in the best of his, you know, energy as well. And I'm still now I have to be held accountable for that. Even today, I still deal with some of the backlash. You know, I have to deal, you know, still from time to time, deal with an emotional thought that they might have. And I have to, you know, go back and revisit the conversation and apologize because Dad was wrong, you know, because, you know, this is something that Dad did, you know, but thank God I've been in a place where I've been able to get past it and been able to own up to it and accept it, and, you know, and accept the fact that it is a mistake, and not be so, you know, male ego and pride that I duck the conversation or that I divert it and not give them their chance to have their say, you know, or even make peace with it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share what is the hardest aspect of just talking about sex?
Well, I just want to chime in. The hardest aspect for me, recently in the last, I would say 20 years or so, is just really understanding sexuality and people's choices, and the choices that they make. Growing up in church, like I said, is villainized to be gay, of course. Is villainized to identify and question who you are and the body you were born in and everything. So that's been the hardest part for me to kind of open up my mind and understand the challenge of it. And so I, pray on it a lot and ask God. And he finally just said, you know what, the best thing you could do is just love them, you know. Hey, I don't like anyone sinning. So it don't matter what you know what I'm saying, sin is sin, ain't no degree or level. But the thing is that all I ask of you is to love them. You know what I'm saying? So my thing now is not to judge, not to have my own ideas of what this is or why this is, but to just love a person genuinely and go from there. Because like it says, love covers a multitude of sins, and love will do more than having a prejudice or an idea of whatever the case may be. I think I've come to the realization that if you just love someone just for who they are as a human being, all that other stuff falls off, and it's not such as a big idea or a big villain or a monster or whatever you want to call it, to deal with. And I think, if we all would just to open ourselves up a little bit more, I think we would be far along than we are right now in society.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, one of the things I'll say for me that I find I'm learning to have conversations about transgender. I haven't mastered the conversation about, just all of the different changes and so forth. So as you can see now, I'm still fumbling, even describing my inability to really talk about it effectively. So I do know that that's an area that I need to be educated, especially as I'm out here meeting more people, especially out here in LA or whatever. But that is an area that I find kind of difficult. I kind of clam up like, okay, well, I don't want to mess up, I don't want to say the wrong thing or whatever. And then I think just understanding all of the different sexualities that are now blossoming and coming forth, and just how unique the spectrum is, because initially it was gay, straight, and then possibly bi, if you were special, you got a special coupon, you could be bi. But now there's some of everything, this pansexual it's some of everything. And so because of that, it's causing me to go back and say, okay, well, wait, which one, you may, and I think that is important for everyone, because and I'm gonna say this, I'm probably shut up, but it would be sad to go through the majority of your life and not really understand yourself fully sexually. And this is your body, this is your sexual bodies or your sexual organs, and to go the majority of your life and not fully understand yourself sexually, to me, is sad, and I don't want to do that. The body is a beautiful organism. It does amazing things. Sex is amazing. I am someone who is sex positive. I do believe that sex should be enjoyed by those who want to enjoy it together, as long as it's consensual and mutually understood. Then that, because there's a energy transfer, there are definitely health benefits to engaging in healthy sexual practices. And so I definitely encourage a positive sexual identity and experiences. But go ahead, Deshon.
I was just gonna say that I grew up in a school, like growing up, I grew up in a school with multicultural, multi-diverse. So I was lucky where I didn't get a chance to see all I saw was just combinations and dynamics. So I've never really worried about how to interact, with the different cultures and sexual identities. I deal with a person in each case as a person, and I let my experiences with them depict my learning process of what they are, or their type. It's just who, as I interact with them as a person. Okay, I know that, okay, if they're gay, this is how they, what they might expect of them, themselves, because this is them as a person. If it's a person that's, trans, whatever, I just want to know what they are. How do I address you? How do I conduct myself for you as a person so that you feel comfortable? And I can't worry about the group sum. I have to worry about the individual as a person, because when I'm dealing with you, I want to make sure I'm not offensive to you. I want to make sure that we have a relationship. So when I go to the next person, I'm worried about them and how to interact with them.
Dope. All right, we're gonna be wrapping up shortly. But I do got one more question. And wait, first, before I move on to this final question, do you guys have any comments? Anything you guys want to add and so forth? Cool. So final question. And this is for all of us, since we are all Black and we are all participants in Black society, and I'm assuming we all have Black parents or were raised by Black parents and so forth. How has Black society affected your perception on sex and sexuality or your sexual identity? I'll start and say that I've found that Black society required this ultra masculine energy type deal to be considered, a man's man, and to be considered a real man and so forth. And I found growing up that not to be true, because I found that there are some very masculine gay men and there's some very feminine straight men, and same for women and so forth. And so the toxicity of having to sit within the barbershop talks and all of that other stuff that ultimately fed a lot of ideas about self, about how to engage with women, about how to engage with other men, that I found to be unhealthy within our Black society. It wasn't until I started doing my own self-education and self-realization that I realized that shit, excuse my French, it was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's my experience. But Darren, go for it.
Sure. I always like to have a little history note in there. So much of what our Black American values and so forth grew out of the demands and expectations that were put on us by a white dominant, a white centered society. And so Black men, for example, were both portrayed as lazy, and they needed white people to make us be valuable and to work and so forth. And the same people came up with the idea that Black men are sexual and sex starved and sex hungry, and that they're going to rape women, and they're going to be these beasts and these sexual kings and conquerors. And so we actually have both versions of that kind of normalized, right? We call folks lazy Negroes. We talk about folks being, oh, he got you know, there's a lot of positive names for Black men, and I'm not going to say on the show today, but they come from the same place. This idea that Black men are so big and so bad that people literally fantasize about Black men and want to know what their sizes are and all this stuff. And so growing up, you don't know what's real. You don't know what's true. You don't know where certain stuff comes from. You just kind of assume this is just how it's always been, and it hasn't. And so I think it's really, really important to just kind of be able to like look through history and find out that, you know, even though so many people talk about the Black man being in charge, there's African countries or African peoples that had women as the primary leaders and decision makers, and that there's other places that had multiple genders, like not just two. Like there's all kinds of rich history that predates the stories that American history has told us. Our history didn't start with slavery, right? Like all these kind of things. So all that to say, it's been really important for me to learn that most of the things I just accepted as true because everybody said them or because that was what I saw growing up. It was like, actually, it's not really that way. So like relearning my own history and rebuilding my identity as a Black man so that it's not living out these positive and negative stereotypes.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add? How does Black society or being raised in even a Black family, how is that and uniquely influence your perception of your sexual identity?
Well, I'll say a little bit. I agree with Darren. But I have found out that, you know, the misconceptions that I've had, that the Black man, to me, I haven't had a relationship with other cultures. Let me say that. But when I be calling, if I, you know, tend to say a nigga this and a nigga that, well, guess what? Niggas just ain't Black. You know what I'm saying? If that's making any sense. So I don't see that as being a barrier with sexual identity to me. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. All right. Well, we're going to toss it, since you're the last person speaking, we're going to toss it back over to Angie, who's going to close us out with some hot points on sex, on abstinence, and so forth.
All right. So lastly, let me say this. I want to thank you all for being on here for some rich conversation. It was really good chit-chatting with you all this afternoon. So big ups to you all. So now I'm going to leave you all with some tips and some things to know when maintaining abstinence. So first we have abstinence just means no sex, none at all. It's okay to wait. No matter where the peer pressure comes from or who might try to coerce you, it's still okay to say no. You do have a voice. You are you, and just go with what you feel inside to make your decisions. You don't need a reason to be abstinent. Even if you've had sex before, you can still say no now. So it's never too late to be abstinent. Never too late. I had a girlfriend that was on the Zoom earlier. She had to get off, and she's 52 years old, and she's been abstinent for the last couple of years. So it doesn't matter. She hasn't been abstinent all her life, but she is now. She's at a place where she's just nothing, no sex. Not to say she won't ever have it, but she's not ready to engage until she finds that person to engage it with, and whatever standards she may have. So it's never too late. The most effective method of birth control, you always have the right to say no. Let the people you date know upfront what you've decided to wait. So if you're dating somebody, let them know what your sexual preference is. Let them know right away, up front. Look, I'm sorry, but I'm abstinent. So they'll know then and there if they want to continue to be your friend or continue to be in a relationship, or if a relationship is trying to form or whatever, you're letting them know up front. You're not playing no games. So in other words, don't play any games. Avoid parties where alcohol and drugs are being used to help you stick with your decision. Abstinence is the best protection against STDs. And so STDs is sexual transmitted diseases. So in order for you to get it, you have to have sex, and unprotected sex at that. Most teens who've had sex wish they had waited. You can be in love with someone and have no sex. There are no physical or medical effects from being abstinent. So just because you're abstinent, you can't come down with COVID 2020. No such thing. Hang out with people who respect your decision not to have sex. And if someone says, if you love me, you would have sex. And then you tell them, if you love me, you wouldn't pressure me. So it goes back and forth both ways. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I would also like to add that if you choose to have sex, do so healthy, do so of good conscience, do so of a good mind, understanding that your body is yours. Make sure that the decision is yours and that you take full ownership of that decision. There's nothing wrong with being sexually active. We are sexual beings. It is a part of our human makeup, and it's also nothing wrong with abstaining from sex. So just understanding that both are your choice. Both can add very significant value to your life depending on how you approach them, but just understanding that we own our sexuality, our sexual identity, not allowing negativity from culture, from peers, from family, and even within self to create a negative or insecure impression of ourselves sexually. So we just want to help we hope that this conversation helps to begin the conversation of fostering a healthy sexual identity and sexual environment, both within the family, within self, within our cultures and our communities, and amongst our peers. So with that said, I want to thank all of you guys for being on the panel discussion. Big ups to the young folks who joined us today. Can all the older folks give them a round of applause? Yo, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being active. Thank you for what you had to add to the conversation. We got some more youth conversations coming up that are very specific to you guys and what you guys gonna have going through. So if you're interested in participating in any more of our conversations, we appreciate if you reach out to one of us and let us know. We'll be reaching out to you. What else we got to add? We thank you just really for y'all chilling with the old folks today and kind of allowing us to see what's going on inside y'all head. So that much I appreciate it, because I know it ain't always easy hanging out with grandma and them. So with that said, I'm going to be signing off. Y'all don't hang up, but I just want to thank everyone that's watching. Thank you for watching another episode of Federo Speaks. I hope that this episode was insightful. I hope that you learned something. We definitely will be having more of these difficult conversations. So again, hope that you are fostering a positive sexual identity for yourself, creating a healthy sexual environment for those around you. And with that said, we're going to be signing off. Thank you very much for watching. All right.